Hello and welcome to Muppetsational, the UK's biggest Muppet Show podcast, hosted by three huge Muppet fans. Join us each week as we dive into an episode of Jim Henson's classic variety show, now finally available on Disney+. This week, it's Season 2, Episode 13, starring the lycra-clad twunk, Rudolf Nureyev. It's time to get things started on the chronological, explorational, conversational Muppetsational!
Woo!
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Muppetsational. I'm Lewis Chandler.
I'm Jade Turner.
And I'm Emma Chandler.
And we are here this week, as we are every week, to discuss another episode of The Muppet Show. It is very early on a Saturday morning. How are we both doing?
Yeah, I'm okay. Yeah, it's early, but it's fine. It's all good. We've all got places to be today, so
We're
busy.
we're gonna talk about the Muppet Show, and then we're gonna go live our lives.
Go live our lives and then put this away and then move on.
How are you both?
Yeah, not bad.
Yeah, poodling along. I've had a very strong coffee, so I'm like, it's like a little bit like...
Yeah, you do seem a bit like...
I've had a cup of tea and an antihistamine and I'm feeling fine.
Well, party.
I did I had some croissants and some orange juice for breakfast, and I thought to myself, if Emma had this, she'd probably be dying right now. It's like, this is too much sugar.
Emma would be like surging.
Yeah, I would be. I'd be like crazy. I'd be like a kid on E. I'd be like a kid on E numbers.
Yeah, it would be Judy on her uppers, just tapping away,
just getting that in there. Like, early Lewis.
Getting out of the way. Well, look, we were already talking about Betty Davis before we even came on mic. Maybe we need to, broaden our horizons a little bit. But maybe we can try and slip in a different golden age of Hollywood actress every week. I'd be like, I thought that Piggy had a very Norma Shearer-esque quality.
Katharine Hepburn.
I don't think Piggy has a Katharine Hepburn in her, but I could see her doing a Norma Shearer.
There's no Katharine Hepburn in Piggy. It's not announced.
I think Janice is more likely to be a Katharine Hepburn.
Yeah, definitely.
Anyway, let's jump in, or should I say plie, into this week's episode. Jade, why don't you start us off with a little production information?
I will indeed. So, this episode was originally broadcast on the 22nd of January 1978. It was written by Jerry Jewell, Joseph A. Bailey, Jim Henson and Don Hinckley, and directed by Philip Casson. And Emma, what have you found out about Rudolf Nureyev?
Yeah, so Rudolf Nureyev was a ballet dancer and choreographer, and, well, he had a very prolific ballet career. He started off in the Kirov Ballet, and then basically in 1961 he was performing in France, and he basically, well, they put it as defected, but he wanted asylum in France to escape basically Soviet Russia. Wow. And then he basically performed with a French ballet company during that time. And then he was basically there until about 1962. And that's when he kind of started his collaboration with the Royal Ballet. And he performed Giselle with Margot Fonteyn. And he was a guest artist with that company through to about 1977. And they performed all sort of like the most prolific kind of well-known ballets together. So Swan Lake, Giselle, like I said earlier. And what was quite interesting was Margot was actually 19 years older than him. Which is quite unusual. And then he was then a dancer for the Paris Opera Ballet, and also he did films, and he choreographed films as well. And he was also in a touring production of The King and I as well, and he was on Broadway. And then, sadly, he died in 1993 at the age of 54 of an AIDS-related illness, unfortunately.
Okay, first question I do just need to get out of the way. Do we find Rudolf Nureyev attractive?
I don't know if I find him attractive, but he's got that kind of like 70s
charisma.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, Lewis's eyebrow went up then. I mean, I don't know about you two, but the first thing I noticed when he came on screen was clearly not what I was meant to notice when he first came through that door backstage. Like, no, you're staring
What
at
Uh,
do you mean?
He looked like he was packing. I feel like is the
Wait, when he came through the door, I didn't notice that bit.
oh
I thought he was wearing a long coat.
no, it stopped. It was cropped at his
It was a cropped jacket.
yeah, it was a cropped jacket.
Oh, maybe I need to watch this episode again. Because, I mean, look, it was working for me. I was just like, as soon as he walked on, I was like, okay, so this is going to be, all right, this is going to be a good episode of television. And then he got into those little white tights, and I was like, thank you. And then he got his top off. I was like, God, what a dream. I was just, yeah, absolutely.
I was cracked up when it got to the point. Well, I mean, obviously we'll get there, but when it got to the point with him with his top off, I was like, "This has been very carefully decided." It's like we will make him topless on this show. This is happening.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Emma, Rudolf Nureyev or Rudolf Nureyev?
I don't know. I mean, I do actually really like ballet. So
Yes, Emma, we all support the arts.
I don't know.
Culture is
Like I
culture.
said earlier, he's got like a charisma about him, definitely.
He can't really sing.
No.
We can't do it all. I mean, the man is.
Okay, sorry.
I know, but I love the fact though that he was just like, yeah, I'm going to sing 2 numbers. Let's go.
Yeah.
Yeah, we shouldn't run before we can walk, or leap before we can. All I can think of again is plie. I don't seem to have
Pirouette.
arabesque.
Be on point.
Very good, Emma. Well, look, why don't we we'll jump into the episode. The first thing I do feel like is that everybody has been prepped on how to pronounce Nureyev.
Yes.
Because it feels like everybody does it at a very steady and secure place of going, Mr. Nureyev.
I know, right? It was a dream for me.
I've always said it Nureyev, which has been completely off my own back,
But it's that classic, like, if you never hear somebody say it out loud and you just read it in a book.
But I also wonder, is that the American pronunciation, Nureyev?
Oh, that's a good point. It's like the conversation about Tovlo / Tuvelu or Tuvlu.
Yeah.
If anybody was on gay Twitter about 5 or 6 weeks ago, that was a big discussion.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure 100% the correct pronunciation, but we can go Nureyev so that we're in line with the episode.
Exactly. We'll follow the Muppets as we are doing.
As
already.
we do. When Scooter appeared in a tux, though, I was like, okay, we're taking this up a notch. This is very exciting that even Scooter's been put in a tux this week. Like, it's not...
And then we cut through to the first scene backstage and they're all in little suits.
I absolutely loved that first scene.
And the entire backstage covered in flowers. Like so sweet.
It was, and what I loved about it is that pretty much for the entirety of this episode, all the comedy was situational. It was so driven by plot or by character interaction. And so it just really felt like a proper storyline, and everything fed into each other, and basically every act that performed on stage was in some way influenced by the overarching plot. It felt so strong to me as a narrative. I really, really loved it. It just felt so much more like a piece of television of now, or at least, just something that just feels so much more, story-led. And yeah, it was great. So great that I didn't even mind Robin. So
well, Robin was fine. Like, Robin was cute in this episode. I feel
exactly.
like
He's got a bigger hat.
Yeah, he wasn't whiny. He was just cute and small. He was just smothered by an enormous top hat. And that also made no sense because Kermit had a tiny top hat at the end.
He had a tiny top hat.
He had a tiny top hat. But why on earth would he not give that to Robin? Like, that's just hilarious.
Oh.
Because this is a weird, sick program, according to Sam the Eagle.
Oh, I know. I loved Sam in this opening little backstage bit where he was like, everything needs to look proper. We need dignity, culture. It's like, and the bit where he has his interaction with Kermit and he's like, have you washed your flippers? Like, that was so beautifully done.
Yeah, this is
so
exactly
great.
the kind of Sam that I wanted from the last time we were talking about him. This was much better. Did anybody else have a brief panic when Sam said Rudolf Nureyev was like the foremost opera singer, and I was like, oh, I thought he was a ballet dancer. And then,
no, I just found it hilarious.
I was really worried that I was like, I was going into this thinking he was a ballet dancer.
Well, you and Sam are obviously on the same.
No, I was just easily taken in by Sam. I was like, oh, guess I was wrong.
You were like, Sam the Eagle must be right.
Yeah, I deferred to him. He's a big, bold eagle.
He is a big, bold eagle. That was the thing. Like, there was a lot of physical comedy, particularly between him and Kermit in this episode. And I felt like they really played up Sam's size. And I think it was made even funnier by the fact that he had that, like, vest of a tux on with his feathers. His feathers almost looked like a cape, I felt like, in this.
Yeah.
Like, he was sort of...
It was weird that he also had, like, a sleeveless tuxedo. It was very
tuxedo.
Magic Mike, in a way.
They didn't want to cover up his beautiful plumage. They, like,
I get that, but it does suddenly look a bit, Dream Boys, or like one of those like sort of waiters that your sort of friends order for a hen do, where they're sort of there in a sort of a shirt and tie, but then a thong. It's a bit kind of like, oh, okay.
I wonder if maybe he asked for that specifically because he was hoping he was going to get into the steam room later on, and he was just going to be able to whip it off quickly. And
oh my god,
it didn't happen.
Maybe that's why Sam was so panicky, because he loves Rudolf Nureyev.
Yeah. The opera
He was trying
singer.
to show off the guns.
Yeah. The bit with the flippers was so great. Kermit was like, the way Jim was doing Kermit's face where he was like wobbling and unsteady, but then also when he fell over, like, it was just hilarious. It was so good. But that whole opening, I honestly think that's like the most I've laughed at some backstage business possibly ever, but definitely in a really, really long time. Like, there were some really, really great moments of Sam just being Sam, but then also the way that Scooter and Robin and Kermit were sort of saying, like, yes sir, back to him, and lining up and agreeing to polish their shoes and sort their hair out and everything. Like, it was just perfect, as you say, Lewis, like situational comedy. Like, it was like just the
camaraderie between them and the sort of collegiate feeling, and just you feel like all these people really do work together and know each other, and it's great. It's kind of exactly what I want from every backstage for the Muppet Show, really. And then we have Kermit's little introduction before we get to Dr. Teeth and Electric Mayhem, which Sam is obviously aghast at. But also, I did love his little line beforehand being like, culture is culture. It's fine.
Yeah. And the 6 of one half dozen of another between ballet and opera as well.
Yeah.
Just like...
Yeah.
Same difference. Oh, and he also was... Did you notice he, like, was still prepping Kermit? He was, like, dusting Kermit off while he was talking. Yeah, oh god, Frank Oz in this episode was absolutely on fire. Yeah. Like, the characters were so on it.
Although I've got to say, there would be nothing worse than wearing a suit and having somebody brush you down with feathers. You're going to look like the abominable snowman. But that is going to be a hindrance more than a help, believe me. But again, it's what I was just saying at the beginning of this episode. We go into Dr. Teeth and Electric Mayhem, which I was a little worried about, because I was like, oh, it's such a shame they're doing all this good setup backstage about, like, oh, we want to make sure that we're, nice and proper for Rudolph, or Rudy, as I'm going to start calling him. And then we go in, and it's Dr. Teeth and Electric Mayhem are trying to do a nice little, highbrow bit of performance. And then we're getting really nice camera angles and them chatting about, oh, hey man, I think Animal's gonna lose it, or like, we should have left this in the minors. And it's just, I was like, yes, this is great. This is like advancing the plot, but it's still funny and it's still using the characters.
Hey, what's this bummer called again?
Minuet G major.
ought to send it back to the miners.
Yeah, if I knew we were gonna do this, I'd have just stayed home and sent in my suit. Animal's not gonna make it, man.
Well, I think he's gonna freak.
If he goes, I go with him.
And it's a breakout!
So something I found hilarious was that even though obviously all of the songs and sketches this week were trying to be elevated and highbrow culture, they kept calling them all the wrong thing and getting everything wrong. This is introduced as a minuet, but while Dr. Teeth and Electric Mayhem are playing it, I think they say it's in G major, but it's actually a minuet in A major. And like, it's just hilarious to me that none of them give enough of a damn to pay any attention to what the actual title is of these very famous classical, whether it's songs or opera pieces.
Well, I clocked Giuseppe Wagner, which I thought was it's like, I don't think that's correct.
No, it's absolutely not correct. Yeah, this was really cool. I felt a little bit like, I'm just not sure about the staging. That stage they've built them, I just don't particularly like how far apart they all are. Like, I really loved the chatting between them, and obviously it was great when Animal freaked out and they all followed. But, like, I just think you lose a bit of that magic by having them all really separated. Like, I kind of want them...
See, weirdly, I feel the opposite. I love the sort of little blocked out staging because I felt it gave it some more dynamic, like, they were cutting between them more. Through necessity, but it also meant they were choosing more interesting angles. We were getting ones where, like, level wise, we'd be down with Janice and then we'd still see Animal up, in her top right, and then we'd see a bit of Dr. Teeth over there. I kind of liked how it meant that we were getting a picture filled with different levels and lighting. I really appreciated it, actually.
Personally, I just feel like maybe there would be a little bit more to those interactions if they were just a little bit closer, and maybe also if you didn't actually have to cut between like each line. But I don't I suppose the only way you could sort of tell is if you did it another way and see which of them landed better.
Because this felt like it landed for me.
Yeah, I didn't mind it. I was just a bit like, I don't know, there's something about that set that I just feel like it's not quite clicking yet.
Emma, you're going to have to be the deciding vote.
Yeah.
Does the set work for you or not?
I found it really fun, actually. And
I
thought it was really great with how, even when they were sort of, when like Dr. Teeth was saying, like, Animal's going to freak in a minute. Yeah. And like, you could see when they kind of cut to all of their different reactions to it, thinking Animal's going to like literally go crazy at any moment. And then they were like, well, if he goes crazy, I'll go crazy. Like, I just thought it was a like you said, kind of some of the stuff we've seen from them in the past has been a bit like meh, but I just thought this was really, really fun.
It's great that they're not just playing, I mean, not that they would just play minuet in A major, because they wouldn't, but it is nice that we are seeing their personality in what they're playing.
It's just like it's like any other sort of really strong narrative episode that we've had before, when obviously the writers' room have come up with a concept. Clearly their minds have started firing of like, oh, well, we could get Dr. Teeth and Electric Mayhem to do this, and we could have this happen over here. And, it's, giving them a really strong jumping off point and seeing them run with it. It's just so pleasing, particularly, when you're watching, as we are, this, week to week, to see a sort of a shift in the regular show. It's that kind of exciting thing where it's like, ooh, it's a little bit different this week. And I do really hope it continues the further we go into these seasons, that it's going to be more and more narrative led, because it's just a much more pleasurable viewing experience.
As you sort of said already, the way that this moved from backstage to onstage to backstage to onstage so seamlessly was really, really lovely, and did make it feel, I guess it's that thing that we've spoken a little bit about before of, is the Muppet Show a variety show that just happens to have a few backstage bits in it? Or is it actually a situational comedy that also has songs and dances and sketches thrown in. This episode certainly feels a lot more like, oh yeah, it's a sitcom, and then there's also a little bit of business on stage.
And like any good sitcom, they have a flaming hot guest star to appear for one episode, because then we get introduced to Rudy through the back door.
This bit was so great. I loved that as the Electric Mayhem came off, Sam the Eagle was yelling, "Degrading!" Which, like, just...
I mean, Sam
10 out
had
of 10.
so many great interjections. I mean, when
Yeah.
Rudolph first turned up and he's like, freak, hippie, weirdo, get a haircut. It's just, get a haircut and hippie. It was just, it felt so, like, specifically 1970s insults.
I think he just saw someone with long hair and thought, yep, you must be a hippie, please leave.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also loved the touch. I don't think you could see them in the first bit, but did you notice there were opera glasses on Kermit's desk?
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
Really cute little nice touch, I thought. Yeah, this was... I felt a little bit for Rudy, as Lewis has decided to call him. I felt a little bit for him in this, because he just had to walk on, smile, wave, and then promptly walk off again. Like, it was a bit of a strange, from his perspective, I was like, this must have been a bit of a weird intro, but it really worked within the episode, and I loved Sam and Kermit were brilliant in it. When he lifted him up, that was just, it was just brilliant. And also, yeah, like I said earlier, like, made Sam look huge, made him look absolutely huge. And now I think of it, was he just doing that to show off for Rudolph's purposes?
I love that we're building this narrative that's it's like some sort of quiet, repressed drama that Sam is like secretly in love with Rudolf Nureyev, and he's just trying to like, find ways to show his love to him, but not in the conventional way.
Yeah. Notice me, but don't.
I mean, my first words in my notes for this scene were, "Oh, damn, okay." So I was incredibly pleasantly surprised.
So then we move into the, I'll say it, Emma, because I feel like you might, it's a little bit early.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
So I think it's Lasci darum la mano.
I'm going to say yes.
Yes. So it's Mozart, it's not Wagner. But
that old chestnut.
Yeah, it's from Don Giovanni, and you've got Miss Piggy and Link in their Nordic-inspired outfits.
Well, it's that classic kind of cliche opera outfits, isn't it? It's always like, you know, those sort of Viking horns and a lady wearing a sort of a breastplate, and with actually the only thing she was missing was kind of like the plaits, wasn't it? That's what you always sort of think of as like a stereotypical opera outfit.
I don't think you'd have that in Don Giovanni, would you?
No, but you know, it's like it's either that or, you know, when you think of like stereotypical, you know, when you used to watch kids' cartoons and they'd go to the opera, it would either be a man or a lady standing there in the sort of the Viking dress, if we call it that, or in a sort of Marie Antoinette sort of big gown, you know, and then sort of like warbling away.
Lassidarum la mano, lamidiridis, vedi non è lontano, attendami
Vorrei, non vorrei, mi trema un poco il cuore. Felice versarei, ma burlarmi ancora.
Do we think Wayne and Wanda were sitting at home bitterly watching this, thinking this used to be our shtick?
Yes.
Oh, 100%.
Well, in between, obviously, Wanda is, as we've agreed, off touring with Moominshans. So maybe she's in a...
She doesn't care.
She's in like a black turtleneck and she catches it on the television. Maybe like a singular tear just falls from her face, and then she turns back and be like, no, that's not my life anymore.
She's not allowed to cry anymore. She has to get that flip book of paper and draw a tear on it and hold it up.
She has to use the bubble gun.
For forgotten about the bubblegum.
How could you forget about the
I
bubblegum?
don't know. The bubblegum was so funny.
She
Yeah.
has to show all her expressions with clay.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
sad now.
And then Wayne is probably like, I don't know, in some regional theatre doing, oh, it's January, so maybe he's just doing the tail end of Panto and very bitterly watching the Muppet Show.
Wayne is definitely in Panto.
Yeah. Look, he should be so lucky. Like, they pay well in a Panto.
I wasn't 100% sure about this to start with, because obviously they were singing not properly, but they were doing the song. It wasn't like they were trying to do it to the best of their abilities, which are obviously relatively limited. I didn't mind that they were both trying to get in on top of one another and, hog the camera, and, there was lots of action with, like, the spears going up one another's noses and the shield blocking Piggy and all of that stuff.
They were both hamming it up, Jade.
They were hamming it up.
Zing!
I was a bit like, oh, is this all this is? Like, it didn't really, like... I mean, I know he ended up, like...
And then a big magnet turned up, and I was like, yay!
But, my first thought with the magnet was like, what is that doing? Because their outfits were so clearly foam that I'd actually, like, not taken that next step of thinking, oh, they're meant to be metal. So the
Jade, just go along with the ride. Whenever a big prop turns up in a scene, you just gotta be like, well, I guess we're going along the absurdity curve here. And then when they just dropped them both, I was fairly, like, a bit indifferent to this sketch. But then as soon as the big magnet turned up, I was like, sold! Got it. I love it.
I loved it when it became clear that they were getting magnetized and they were going to get lifted into the air. I was on board 100%. But there was still this thought in the back of my mind that was like, that is not how that would go down, because there is not 1 ounce of metal on them. Like, they are all foam, baby.
All foam, baby.
Genuinely, when something just, like, doesn't click immediately of, like, oh, Sam's had a genius thought because they're covered in metal. I was like, they're not covered in metal. Yeah, no, I'm normally totally on board with it. I don't know why my brain was just like, I'm not reading this as metal right now. Yeah. But no, it was fantastic when he was in the wings and was like, I need to act immediately on this. This is...
Oh, and we got another one of those gorgeous looking into the wings shots that I really like. That was cool.
And did you notice that they also matched the lighting? So when he was doing it, there was a bit of red light. And then when you cut backstage after this immediately, they kept the red light in that right-hand side of the stage. So they really were matching, like, the world building, which I feel like they haven't done that much of that. So that was really quite nice to see.
Emma, did you like the big magnet, or was it a step too far? Were you repelled by it?
No, I did. I loved the big magnet. I thought it was really funny. And actually, I was like, as we were just talking about Wayne and Wanda, I was like, where was that?
Yeah.
When they needed to get rid of Wayne and Wanda.
Maybe that is how they finally did it.
They found quite a few other ways to get rid of Wayne and Wanda. They weren't, I mean, to be fair, it's kind of odd that they had a big magnet just sort of waiting up there and they never utilised that. But then again, they were never in metallic or foam metallic outfits to do so.
I think they do an absolutely amazing job with the costumes and the props on the whole. But those ones, like, they just hadn't made them shiny enough. Like, they just... It was foam.
There was a lot of foam this episode, to be fair, but we shall get to that soon.
Very soon.
Actually, pretty much immediately.
So this is our first number with Rudy. as we're now calling him. And it starts off, it's, a very nice sort of typical ballet stage, and he starts off doing his moves.
God, there is just
ballet moves.
nothing better than a ballet butt. Like, it's just...
I knew you were going to want to talk about that.
How could you not? It's just... God, you're just sort of sitting there like... It's really something. It makes you sort of regret having not taken dance more seriously. It's sort of like God, what I could be working with had I been a proper dancer. And there we are. Not that I've got any complaints, but this time.
It was
anyway. Sorry, carry on, Emma.
Spectacular.
Spectacular.
Okay, we're gonna go back. We're gonna go back. So
Rudy got back. That's
he starts off kind of in the opening bars of Swan Lake, obviously doing his very classical ballet moves, and then all of a sudden, Pig Ballerina appears.
Horror. Just I wrote in all caps, horror.
Like absolute madness. The fact that there's someone in there covered in foam.
That poor dancer in there.
Exactly.
He must have been cooking. He?
Yes. So, I don't want to cut you off, Emma. Is there anything else you want to say immediately before I talk about Graham Fletcher?
Anything you need to get out trauma-wise about the pig ballet dancer?
No, I'm good. I'm good.
You're good. Okay. So, Graham Fletcher is the dancer who is in the pig ballerina costume, Ballerina Pig, to give her a proper name. And we're going to see more of Graham Fletcher in the coming seasons. He was part of the Royal Ballet, and he worked with the Muppets a lot when they had full body costumes that I think specifically required dancing. Just a brief glance on Muppet Wiki, thank you Muppet Wiki, looks like there's a character that comes back quite a bit in season 3 and season 4, so we will eventually get to that. And when I watched it the second time, when I then knew that it was a man in there, you can see it's a man, primarily I think because of the height of how big the costume is.
And also, sorry Jade to interrupt, but when I watched it the second time as well, there are moments where Rudy's kind of holding the pig ballerina, and you can really see him kind of starting to struggle a little bit. So that kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, it's an amazing outfit, but it is horrifying.
It is horrifying.
It's really
the face
scary.
is, that episode of The Twilight Zone where it's like Beauty in the Eye of the Beholder, and this woman tries to get some plastic surgery, and then she takes it off, and her face is still beautiful, and it turns out all the other people in this world have like pig faces, and it's meant to say something about like vanity, although it says nothing because it doesn't say anything. But that's the kind of pig face they had given it. It was really like twisted at the mouth, and
I think they maybe had taken inspiration from Hyacinth Hippo from Fantasia a little bit, because it sort of, I mean, it was obviously it was a pig. I'm not saying it was a hippo, but it kind of had that vibe of the feeling, and also obviously because it's a ballerina, which Hyacinth is.
Yeah.
But the reason they did this was because Rudy said that he wanted to dance with Miss Piggy, and basically they knew they couldn't make that happen. So this was the sort of compromise of making a new Muppet that obviously was a full body one that someone could actually get in and dance in. But I don't know. Like, I feel like, I know they obviously would have been quite limited with what they could have done with Piggy. And I guess when you see the size of the stage that they worked on here, I get that obviously the point of ballet is that you can see like the full legs, and if you're Lewis, make sure you can see that butt.
That ass.
But like, I wonder if they could have done something where Piggy was in the half frame for a lot of it and still dancing with him or something. I don't know. Like, it's a tricky one, because this costume is horrifying. It's so horrible.
I mean, I guess the only thing I guess I would say is, obviously a lot of people would have known who he was at that point in time, but I would say I think this is the first guest star that we've had where they've actually done their sort of main not talent, but you know what I mean? Like, he actually performs ballet, and they've made it kind of centre stage, and they've given him the proper space to do it, and he can like actually like execute proper moves kind of thing. Whereas I think maybe if they did it with Miss Piggy, I don't know if necessarily you would have seen that as much. And also it just kind of showed like his strength as well, because especially when, you know, when he was holding like the pig ballerina and they were like going on point, and you know, I know obviously they cut between like just the empty foam shell, which was kind of freaky, and then also the one point where that you could see that it was actually tied to him as well.
Yeah, tied to
that
his
was
feet.
quite strange. Yeah.
I've got to say, I thought it was incredibly impressive and well rehearsed as an entire sequence, because it was quite substantial.
Oh,
It was
really
long,
long.
yeah.
It was really long.
Yeah, and I think there was some really excellent editing in it. I mean, one of the classics of when people just yeet an empty Muppet and just toss them across and they just flop to the ground. There was a couple of times where literally it looked the land of the empty Muppet into the cut into the
Graham.
the dancer back in Graham. Graham. Cut to Graham.
Cut to Graham.
Cut to Graham. Cut to Graham.
Cut to Graham. Cut to Graham getting up and
Yeah, seamless.
Yeah, it really was. I thought I was just very, very impressed by this.
Don't get me wrong. The editing I thought was absolutely spot on and far better than especially season 1 when they tried to do some of these things, and you know some of those edits were really, really clunky, or the Muppet just came from off screen out of nowhere, and you're like, where, like, what? They were just dancing a second ago, and now they're meant to be off screen. Like, how, you know, just the mental gymnastics didn't work on that. Whereas this, yes, they'd clearly choreographed it really, really well. I felt like I could have done with more of Graham as opposed to the floppy Muppet without anyone, you know, because especially near the end, they got to a lot of just like flinging around, and then the bit where it was tied to his feet, like, I don't really know why.
I genuinely didn't clock the tied to the feet bit. I know there was a bit too much flinging around near the end, but up until that point, I also thought like the way that the outfit had been designed, it kept its shape pretty well, if you know what I mean. Like, it was only you sort of forgave the illusion, if you know what I mean. You could buy into it enough that it wasn't just it wasn't like Rita Moreno tossing around a Muppet Man, which was just, you know, it was almost like a scarecrow. Do you know what I mean? Just it kept the shape better, I suppose, because of all the spinning and turning. Yeah, apart from the actual terrifying face of the pig, I thought it was great.
I felt a little bit like it lent too far into the Muppet silliness near the end. Like, I really could have done with a little bit more of Nureyev just doing his Nureyev doing Nureyev. Like, okay, yes, you want to see what he does with the Muppets, but equally, exactly like you were just saying, Emma, like, they've given him this big space to dance. Like, let him dance.
No, I thought it was enough. I thought we got enough at the beginning. I don't, you know, but we've complained before about you know, songs or sketches from guests where it's like, why are the Muppets not integrated into this enough? And I thought, look, you give them a minute of the good stuff, literally, and then we bring the pig. Bring on Graham. Graham. And Q Graham.
Of his 3 numbers, this is the one for me that I just felt like it didn't quite work. Like, there were, like, I didn't not enjoy it, but I felt like for the length of the song, I felt like maybe the ratio of proper ballet to silliness wasn't quite right. And also, like, although I did really appreciate it from a technical point of view, I felt like the decisions that they'd made just around whether it was real pig human or, you know, floppy pig was maybe slightly off as well. I just felt a little bit disappointed that, like, they had this opportunity and they just really, especially near the end, they just really, really lent into, like, complete chaos and carnage. But not necessarily in, like, a finessed, I know that word doesn't go with it, but you know what I mean? Like, it just sort of felt a bit like, oh, we're just going to totally go for it. But having said that, by no means absolutely not the worst use of a guest star, or I mean, it was great, and it was lovely that they did give him the space, even if it was only for like 40 seconds or whatever it was, to do his thing at the start. Like, it was really nice that they obviously said, like, yeah, go ahead, you go do it.
We go from Swine Lake into our UK spot with the little whatnot, who's kind of missing half of his face, and like on the table it's like little half teapots and like empty plates and cake stands, and also the little Mona Lisa painting is missing her face as well. And he sings a song called Something Missing.
I've got 2 wheels on my tricycle and 4 toes on each foot. I've got 6 days in my week, and up with this I will not put. I'm a bath without a plug, and I'm a handle with no jug. I'm a kiss without a hug unless you're near me. I've got 3 strings on my violin, and I'm an only twin. Something's missing, something's missing, something's
Everything kind of disappears, and I love the fact that when he's about to sing Missing, he disappears, and then he talks about 2 blind mice instead of 3, and like 2 and 2 make 3 and everything. It's quite a sad little melancholic song, but then sort of halfway through the kind of lady whatnot appears, and then it all gets happy again, and all the cakes and the like face on the Mona Lisa turns up, and his kind of complete face, happens, but then they disappear a bit at the end. But I thought it was quite a sweet little song.
It took me a while to grasp the concept. It was only really once the female whatnot turned up that I was like, oh, okay, cool, I get it. And also, all I could think was how much the lady whatnot looked like the Liz Lemon Muppet in that episode of 30 Rock. When they do that little joke where she just flops by the camera.
I was watching it, I was like, this seems very familiar.
Yeah, it's the Liz Lemon Muppet.
Maybe it is the same little whatnot that they used for that. Like, yeah.
I don't know if those are officially. I don't think that when that Muppet shows up, it's a Jim Henson Muppet. It's not like when Kermit turns up at Don Geiss's funeral, which is great. That show is so stupid.
Yeah, I like, this is a very sweet little song. Like, that idea of not being complete until you've got your other half. Like, it's a very...
I thought it was a little clumsy, if I'm honest. I didn't like the look of the sort of half Muppet whatnot. That didn't really land as a concept for me. I don't know. For me, it was actually the first weak spot of the episode. It's kind of one of those times I kind of wish I'd had the American cut, so I could have just hopped right over.
Oh, I don't think it's that bad. I do think, like, I agree with you. I think the whatnot was a little bit strange. I think they'd done, like, each side of his face had a different shape, and I think that was actually the problem. Like, because even when he was complete, he still looked a little bit lopsided, and I'm not sure if that it just didn't, like on immediate first glance, it was just a little bit strange that, like, like, I feel like it would have been stronger if they'd literally, like, almost cut his face down the middle, and one side had like totally normal features and the other side was just blank or something. I feel like that would have just been that bit easier to grasp.
There were a few seasons on Drag Race where they used to make the queens do a kind of a split face drag, where it'd be female presenting on one side and male presenting on the other, and there is such an amazing way you can do that, where it's literally you turn to the left and the illusion is that thing, you turn to the right, and this just felt confusing. That plus and then the scenery setting was I felt it was a bit haphazard, so I was like, okay, so the Mona Lisa is missing her face, and then we've got empty cups and saucers, and I don't know, it all just felt a bit muddled. I couldn't tell whether we were doing an Alice in Wonderland thing or whether we were doing, I don't know, topsy-turvy kind of. I got it by the end, but I thought it was just very clumsily set up, and I didn't think the art direction, the prop usage, and even the Muppet itself were selling the concept.
Yeah, I think there was, I mean, typical UK sport. Like, I'm guessing they obviously didn't put an awful lot into it, and it took me a minute to look at, like, the teapot without a spout, for instance. I was like, is that what that is meant to be? I was like, oh, okay, that is what that's meant to be. Yeah. And there was, like, I think at the end there was like a vase that was filled with flowers, and again, it wasn't necessarily that obvious that like, oh, it's the flowers that are missing. You know, it's like a vase can exist on its own without flowers. Like you said, I guess by the end of it, I was like, oh, this is like, it's quite a sweet message sort of thing. And it's a Paul Tracy song. And he's the songwriter who also wrote some other songs that we've had on the show before, like The Ugly Song and Wishing Song. So I think when you know that, you can kind of see that it's in like that sort of similar vein as
quite
those
like
numbers.
melancholic.
I didn't mind it, but yeah, definitely a typical kind of UK spot, really.
Well, then from melancholy to tragedy, we get a veterinarian's hospital, and it's all based around Hamlet.
Shakespeare.
Well, yeah, but okay. Well, it's they predominantly most... No, do you know what? I'm going to stick with this. Predominantly most of the jokes are from or about Hamlet, and then they just toss in a bit of like Taming of the Shrew and...
I don't think that's true. I feel like most of it's just naming Shakespeare plays, isn't it?
It was Hamlet, To Be or Not to Be.
There was Alas, Poor Yorick.
That's also Hamlet.
There's there was Taming of the Shrew.
Yeah, so that's just one.
There's they said about they named like Richard II,
Henry IV. Yeah.
There was I feel like there was some other.
Okay, fine. But I'm just saying Hamlet was kind of the jumping off point, and there is a pig on the operating table.
Yeah.
So, you know what?
They're all hamming it up.
Thank you. Yes, Emma. Very, very good. Just, you used that one already.
Yeah.
Emma. You can't do it again.
No. That's it. I'm fresh out of anecdotes.
I'm done.
There was a running theme of Hamlet, which wasn't surprising, seeing as there was a pig.
A running theme of ham.
It was like Hamlet.
Ham. People do like the way she says ham.
But I just felt like they were, other than like the To Be or Not to Be and Alas, Poor Porrick. Like,
yeah, I mean that was.
They were basically just naming plays. Like, it wasn't exactly. I was sort of expecting them to.
I liked zounds and sounds what? Sounds like whatever to me. I thought that was quite good.
What? I didn't get that. What was that?
What? Zounds is like an old, expression of like, zounds. I can't.
Oh, okay. I was like, I have no idea what that was.
You must have heard the term like zounds before.
I genuinely don't think I have.
It's like SWOUN, I think.
Okay. Yeah, no, that one genuinely went over my head.
It kind of felt like, when like someone says, oh, you have to talk about Shakespeare, and someone just basically reels off all of the names of the plays and chucks in
Emma,
a few
just
quotes.
say me at university, it'd be quicker. That complete Shakespeare works was, I don't think, ever cracked open. It's fine. I know the ones I want to know,
Yeah, I was just expecting a little bit more. I suppose I was expecting more in the vein of the like To Be or Not to Be and Alas, Poor Porrick, rather than just like them setting up to be able to say titles of the plays. Not that I expect people to be able to just reel off like loads and loads of Shakespeare quotes, but like, I don't know, between...
I can do my Hamlet monologue if you so require.
No one wants that, Lewis. No one wants that.
Well, Central School of Speech of Drama didn't. So. Oh, that's not true. They put me on the waiting list. It's fine.
But I'm sure between all of the people that were working on the Muppet Show, they could have had someone could have gone round and been like, can you name some Shakespeare quotes, please? We need to do some puns based on them. Like, that would have just been a bit more imaginative, I think.
I did think it was quite funny at the end with the voiceover when they were talking about time and they were all looking because there's no like clock or like anything with the time anywhere. That was quite funny.
Yeah, that was.
I think this felt more of a step up from the shoe-based.
Oh yeah,
but the shoe
veterinarian's
was awful.
hospital. At least this had an actual patient, and actually, again, it was trying to elevate veterinarian's hospital. So they were like, oh, so let's do Shakespeare in veterinarian's hospital. That's still in keeping with the narrative thrust of the episode.
Absolutely, and actually in keeping that most of the puns were based around just the titles of the plays, because again,
that's all the Muppets would know.
Exactly.
They don't know that it's Mozart, and they get the name of the minuet wrong. Like, that is actually in keeping, but it's just a bit disappointing from an actual joke point of view, because you're just like, okay.
I did think the sort of Statler and Waldorf button at the end was quite funny, where they were like, I can't remember which one it was, and they were like, oh, it offended me, and then why? And it's like, and then he said something like, "Oh, I was a student with you. Were a student with Shakespeare."
Yeah, I think it's Statler says, "I was a student of Shakespeare." Yeah, and Waldorf says, "You're a student with Shakespeare."
That's it. Yeah, that was funny.
They were good this episode. They they
had lots of nice little moments.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was all very typical. Like, there's nothing better than grand opera. That was nothing like it. You know, it was very typical.
Yeah, there's nothing like grand opera. Yeah, you're right. There was nothing like grand opera.
Yeah, it was great to have their little zingers on the end of.
Yeah, very. That one's almost very like Marx Brothers kind of verbal comedy. Let's get into this next number. So we have a little backstage business, and adorable Robin on stage in his little too big hat trying to introduce.
Before we get to Robin,
we got to go to backstage with Piggy and Kermit.
We've got Miss Piggy in
of course,
towel.
Yes, we do. Where she says, "Coming, Rudy."
Yeah. Which really just made me want her to burst into "Hello, Dolly," because if somebody's screaming Rudy, like,
"Hello, Rudy,"
there's only one song that needs to play after that.
I thought it was quite funny for the fact that she obviously thought she was going to do the duet with Kermit, and then finds out that it's going to be Rudy, so she's really happy, but she kind of like smacks Kermit and then like goes off.
It's a nice balancing out of last week with Miss Mousy and Kermit.
Yes.
It feels like Piggy really got her.
She got the last laugh here for sure. Like,
she was. I mean, look, let's get into it. Miss Piggy approaching a hot twunk in a sauna was a very approachable scene for me. So I was like, just from the moment he walked in, I was like, thank you, homosexual 1970s. It was just.
I have
but
to.
Then,
just before we go into it though, I did like.
Before you see your brother continue to get hornier and hornier over.
I just wanted to say about Robin's introduction, where he's like, "I've had to come on and do this because Kermit's trying to get the spiked heel marks off his throat." Like,
I know.
I thought that was hilarious.
Yeah, it's great. He was very sweet. I actually really did like Robin in this episode. I was like, this is just the right amount, and you can go away now.
But I feel like this is generally probably what we're going to see from him now on. Is just like a cute little kid Muppet. Like this is what I'm expecting. I feel like the Bernadette Peters episode was obviously just meant to be like his sort of introduction or reintroduction.
Remember him?
Yeah, and welcoming him into the Muppets almost. Like, yeah.
Just as long as he doesn't get too scrappy-doo, if you know what I mean. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I guess it's quite funny though that the most chaste Muppet is then introducing probably the horniest scene.
Is this the horniest sketch that we've had?
So.
Like,
I
it's
think
either
so.
this or the sexual energy between Animal and Rita Moreno, I think. And maybe Bert and Connie Stevens, but that was very pure in a way.
Oh, Connie.
But this was just...
Don't you talk to strangers?
Depends on how strange the stranger is.
What a wonderful sense of humor you have. And you have a marvelous mind. And the other parts ain't bad either.
Just think of it. Last week I've been dancing with Natalia Makarova. And today I'm in a steam room with the Lady Pig.
Yes. And isn't it heaven?
I don't think heaven is this warm. It's more like the other place.
If you're warm, maybe you're overdressed.
No, I'm fine.
Maybe I'm overdressed.
That's it, I'm leaving.
Oh, no, sweetie, you just got here. Please.
You don't understand. I really can't stay.
It's cold outside.
I've got to go away.
It's cold outside.
This evening has
Lucky
been
that I hold your hands, they're cold as ice.
I mean, there was a part where I was genuinely like, are they genuinely going to rip this towel?
Yeah,
off of,
I know. I thought the towel
off
was
of
coming
Rudolf
off.
Nureyev. that rough-looking pool. Like,
I
it
know.
was
I was
so-
like, ew, look at that water.
what sort of strange, I don't know, regional holiday camp are they are they at for this shallow pool that only goes up to your ankles? It was, but what? It's January 1978. Why are they singing "Baby It's Cold Outside"? It's very strange.
I was on board with this. They gender swapped the duet, hadn't
Yes, they did.
Which I loved, and that's so Piggy that she's obviously being the one that's like, "Come hither, do not leave." Like, I really appreciated that. I just thought the steam room setting was. I feel like it just ticked a lot of boxes for them.
She was offering up those steamed pork buns.
She-
That's what she was.
He could get his top off. Great. We could have
Yeah.
Piggy all over him with the threat of the towel falling down any minute, which added an extra layer of fun to it. Like, they obviously were like, oh, we want them to have a great duet. What could we do? Where could we set it? Maybe it's cold outside in a steam room. I think that's genius. I'm sorry, I think it's genius.
No, it is. I think the only thing was, it did give me some flashbacks to. Is it worth telling the story? No, it's fine. It's like a performance story, not like a. So one time in Vauxhall, no, when I was at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival in 2011, there was a production of Sweet Charity done by this amateur theatre group. It was an all-male production of Sweet Charity.
Okay.
And it was and we saw it on the opening night because we could see it for free because it was in one of the same venues as ours. It was one of the worst things I've ever seen, but in a audience crying with laughter at how bad it was.
Oh no!
And sort of the first number started, and the keyboard that was the only accompaniment they had sort of decided to use this kind of like parping kind of like it wasn't just a piano, it was like and it was like, ooh, okay, that's a choice. And they did the opening number, and then as it went on, you suddenly started realizing like, oh, they are miming props that they don't have. Somebody wheeled on this trolley. It was like chicken, beef, pork, nothing on the trays, at all.
God.
And the moment we realised that clearly this was so drastically under-rehearsed and bad was when somebody arrived at a door, and from off stage you heard a and then from the tech desk you got a bing bong sound effect. It was just like, and so that from that point we were like, oh shit, this is bad. But then when they did Rhythm of Life, and I forgot to mention, the set for this show was a grimy tiled back wall with 4 urinals.
What?
Just attached to it. Exactly. Made no sense. Nobody ever used them.
Thank God!
Wait. And then they did Rhythm of Life, sung by a disinterested drag queen, flatly singing into a microphone, and they do it in a sauna. So they pump a load of steam in. Everybody in the cast is in towels, including some very young male members of this cast. And then right at the end, 3 of the men fully whip off their towels and are just spinning their dicks around and just to the finale of Rhythm of Life. And this drag queen just trying to do this shitty falsetto going, live, and just like these dicks going, and the audience is just screaming, just like, what is that? And just,
oh my
for
God.
the next scene and a half, the audience, when they're just reeling, I'm just like, what the hell is happening? This is the worst thing we've ever seen. It was just so weird and upsetting and just nuts. And then, it was one of the my stomach hurt from how much I was heaving with laughter over the 90 minutes of this production, all male production of Sweet Charity. But yeah, so the long and short of it was, I think I did have a little bit of PTSD when I saw a musical number taking place in a sauna. It was just, it's happening again.
Well, luckily, I think Piggy's a little bit more professional than that.
She is. Although I've got to say, not much of a singer is our Rudy.
No, but as I said earlier, like, you can't do everything. Like, I mean, you know.
No, I know,
literally,
but it's strange that they gave him 2 songs when he's not the strongest singer. Like, it's fine, and obviously he can dance it and sell it, but it's a little wobbly, let's be honest.
I feel like you can kind of get away with sing-talking in Baby It's Cold Outside.
You can, but then we've got, putting on my top hat, or putting on my top hat.
That's more of a stretch, for sure. For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I actually felt like his acting in this, like his response to Piggy was fairly decent. I mean, I don't know how much of that was just genuine terror that she was coming at him.
That Frank Oz was going to whip that towel off, yeah.
I was going to say, like, Piggy went absolutely crazy.
She did.
She was hog wild. She was... It was great.
She was unleashing the full force of Miss Piggy, the page 3 model. Like, she was just on it.
I did think it was, like, not incredibly well choreographed.
Yeah.
It was, like, a little sloppy and a bit messy.
Strange at times.
Yes.
Yeah.
Lots of times where Piggy was just fully behind Rudolph. And I don't know if that was literally Frank trying to whip that towel off. Like, who's to say? But it was a hot ballet dancer in a towel singing with Miss Piggy, so it ticks all the boxes for me.
And he went through the wall at the end as he ran away from her.
Oh my god, that sort of cartoonish, hole in the wall. Yeah, it was great.
It was.
Very, very Warner Brothers kind of cartoon style, like.
Yeah. Just so hilarious that Miss Piggy, despite her love for Kermit, is still just so horny for.
I love it.
Any attractive man that might come her way. Basically.
Hashtag relatable queen. So from one relatable queen into our little king. Emma, do you want to take us into the next sketch?
Oh. Rolf is wearing a little bow tie. It's so cute.
So cute.
Oh my god.
I think this is my outfit of the week.
Just the bow tie.
Just a little bow tie.
Just a little bow tie. Oh my goodness, yeah. We go to Rolf on the piano playing Claire de Lune, and it's so sweet, and it starts off really, really quite cute. And then you see Fozzie's little hat appear and his little face. And he's like, where's your candelabra? Where is it? Don't worry, I'll get it. And then like Rolf's literally like, oh god. And then he like just tries to keep playing along. And then I just love this whole bit with him and Fozzie like sneaking on, putting the candelabra on the top. Then he sneaks off. Then he tries to like light it.
With a match, yeah.
With a match. And then obviously that's not working. And then poor Rolf is like trying to be very professional and getting kind of annoyed with him. And then I love the next part where he's holding a lighter.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
which I've got to say, he got from Gonzo.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah,
he goes,
from
Gonzo,
Gonzo.
and he comes back with like, so I love the idea that Gonzo is just off stage smoking. Just,
Yeah.
like, we just
but
like,
also,
Gonzo
I
is
was
a confirmed
slightly
smoker.
scared that like Fozzie was going to go up in flames because it was properly sparking in his hand.
Yep.
And then obviously that didn't work. And then the next step, he then gets a blowtorch.
I mean, that was the one where I was like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah,
like,
from Gonzo. And then I love the fact that Fozzie's like, this is it now. It's going to work. It's going to be great. It's going to be great. And then he just ends up melting the top of the candelabra off. But yeah, I thought it was really fun. And it was just nice to see Fozzie again as well.
I know.
We haven't seen him in so long. And it was such a perfect utilisation of him.
This was incredible. There is nothing funnier than Fozzie in particular trying to not be noticed and doing everything he can to apparently stay in the background, but actually stealing the entire limelight off of what's going on. The way that it progressed, and he got ever so slightly louder each time, like when he was yelling like lighter, lighter, and then by the time he had the blowtorch, that he's just fully just standing there with the blowtorch just talking to Ralph, as he called Rolf.
I know, he called him Ralph as well,
which was strange. No, it was absolutely amazing. Of all of the Muppets, of course, Rolf is just happily playing Claire de Lune. He's not got a problem with knowing who that it's a Debussy and that he knows how to play it and it's all good. But he's still thwarted because he's forgotten his candelabra and Fozzie needs to sort it out for him. Like, it was such a nice little twist on that. And especially after so many UK spots where we've been like, oh, nothing's happened, or it's just, it is just Rolf playing. Like, this was this was amazing.
It was just right from that first little shot as they pan round and you just see Fozzie like bop up and go like, oh, and then like bop back down again. I was like, oh, something's going to be happening. Yeah. I thought this was, perfect. Great.
Also really quite rewarding for people who have watched all the episodes and
who have had to sit through all those UK spots when nothing happens.
Well, but also like all the times that we've, and I'm sure people in the 70s were the same, been like, what is going to happen to that candle? That is a real flame. Like, Rolf's about to go up. And then this one that they actually like call it out, like, oh, you forgot it. Like, I need to go get it. But then also that it does actually melt. But thankfully, Rolf survives. It's fine.
Yeah. No, it was a really lovely little sketch. Again, it just perfectly fits into the drive of the episode of like, oh, we're trying to do, heightened. We're trying to do, dignified, cultured.
Dignified.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah. I love the fact that in this last number, Sam has decided that apparently tap is not dignified.
Well, I think it's more that obviously there is quite a line between doing ballet dancing and then like any form of modern dancing.
Yes, I suppose so.
I think that's where it comes from, as opposed to it necessarily being about it being like dignified or not. I think it's just more about like it, whether it's like entertainment or classical performance.
Culture,
yeah, exactly. Culture. Yeah. But I loved that we started with this in the dressing room, in backstage, that obviously he was hidden so that you couldn't see that he was in the tux.
I was genuinely wondering what we were going to get as a finale outfit. I was like, hot pants, hot pants, hot pants, hot pants, hot pants. Just like some sort of disco number or something.
Oh my God, imagine. That would have been amazing.
I know.
What a wasted opportunity, God damn it.
10 out of 10. No notes.
But yeah, it then obviously moved out from behind the screen. We got a little bit of tap dancing and the start of Top Hat, White Tie and Tails in the dressing room.
Right?
Yes, from Top Hat.
Yeah.
Irving Berlin from Top Hat. And then that we move into the backstage area where all of the Muppets are in matching tuxedos.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, it was amazing. And I loved like how they did Miss Piggy with her hair as well.
Yes.
That was so good.
And looked so, like, that's so modern. I mean, that's basically like what she looks like at the start of Muppets Most Wanted, right?
I was just about to say the same,
Yeah.
It's, and again, just the blocking of this and the camera angle choices. So we get the one line and we're going across the sort of balcony and then we cut to an angle looking up as he comes down and we've got more Muppets in the forefront and then he taps his way onto the stage. It felt really just well thought out and gorgeous. It was lovely. I really, really liked it.
I am putting on my top hat, tying up my white tie, brushing off my tail. I am putting up my shirt, putting in my shirt studs, polishing my nails.
He's stepping out of here to breathe an atmosphere that simply reeks with class. And we trust you will excuse his dust when he steps on that gas.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was just really, it was lovely actually. I just loved them all in their little like tuxes and top hats. It was amazing.
And we had the Ethel Merman lights again.
Yeah.
When we got on stage, which was,
I love that they've just got those somewhere in storage.
Yes, I know.
Let's bring out the lights.
They're like, we only bring them out for the absolute like icons of their craft, but we will bring them out when we
rude
have
to
them.
Bernadette Peters, frankly. She got stuck in a sort of white void with a couple of, dying elm trees.
Well, to be fair, her final number was Down on the Farm with the Jug Band, so I think it's even worse than the white void with the trees.
Did she have a country album she was promoting? I don't know. We never checked that.
I don't know. I don't know what they were thinking. This is what you do with a star. Like this.
Yes, it is.
This is the treatment they deserve. Yeah, I like, as you've already said, Lewis, like his singing clearly not great, but
not great.
It was just so charming, and it was quite fun to see him tap as well because I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah, there's something about a man in a tailcoat that just, it does. It works. Who knew?
How Emma feels about Kermit. My only question about this was at the end when he turned the cane into a gun and started shooting the Muppets.
So that is a fairly kind of that's been done before. And I feel like it's either Fred Astaire who might actually do it in that number.
Okay.
It's a bit
thing.
that's done.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, when I was like, oh, that's kind of a bit odd, but then I was like, well, maybe that's part of
No,
it.
it's definitely. I can't recall where I've seen it before, but I've definitely seen it at least on a couple of other occasions. Usually, the chorus is at the back of the stage, and the main dancers at the front, and doing that when they do their big sort of step forward, that becomes the bang of the gun. But again, I loved the way that they were able to frame it enough so we did get all the Muppets coming to join him, albeit like very obviously they would actually be past the footlights if they were, but but maybe they were meant to be in the orchestra pit, you know. But no, I thought
he
it
needed
was
the whole stage, Lewis.
exactly.
Okay?
He did. That ass needed a whole stage.
Yeah, and actually did have one second question, which was why is Menomina included in the chorus line of Muppets?
Maybe
Like,
Menomina can tap.
just very confused. We haven't seen Menomina in I don't even know how long, and all of a sudden he's in the chorus line with a lot of our major Muppets. I'm very
Maybe he fitted into the little mini suit that they had to hand. You know what I mean? Like it would cost more money to make a big suit for a bigger Muppet. So they were like, this fits Menomina. Get him on.
Bung it on.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a good point. I wonder if that was Robin's suit that they just
yeah, probably. Like, you know, I wouldn't be surprised to be honest.
Quite possibly. Yeah, it was a great finale for the episode.
And just again, Rudy's whole vibe in the sort of the goodbyes, he just seemed so game and up for it this entire episode, and that's such a nice thing. And the fact that you said, oh, he really wanted to dance with Miss Piggy, you know, he clearly watched and liked the show and was aware of it, so it's reflected in his vibe and desire to want to do it and willing to get his kit off for a family entertainment show.
I really liked with the goodbyes as well, like I felt like we'd kind of dropped the Sam the Eagle story a little bit in the second half of the episode, but having him come back on with the goodbyes and having him say, no, I'm sorry I let you back in, was just perfect cherry on top of the cake. Exactly how Sam the Eagle feels.
Yeah,
it's like,
exactly.
oh no, you're one of them, you're not one, you know, I thought you were like me and you're not. You're on the same page as Kermit. Like, yeah, I'm surrounded. Such a good thing. And then having Rudy call him Baldy
yes,
and put the hat on him.
Yeah,
was just
that was
hilarious.
great.
Oh, lovely.
It was so funny. Yeah, it was really
a treat.
Yeah, a treat indeed. Nice end to the episode.
Well, I'm going to be very excited to see how we're each going to rank this episode. But first, we must decide on our MVMP, otherwise known as our most valued Muppet performer. Emma, why don't you kick us off?
So my MVMP for this episode is going to be Sam the Eagle.
Yay!
Yay! I just love his whole storyline throughout this whole episode. And the fact that he keeps just saying, you know, we need culture and dignity. And just his interactions with Kermit, which I mentioned earlier, like with the washing the flippers, and then when he like picks him up as well, and his whole like, you know, interaction with Rudy when he's like, you punk kid, you hippie.
Yeah.
And just like every time when he came on, you know, on the different introductions as well, being like, keep it classy, and then his horror at what was unfolding in front of him. I just thought it was great. It was really fun, and even his like little vest top tuxedo was really funny. He was just really, really great. And I just loved all his different interactions with everyone this week. So for that reason, for this episode, Sam the Eagle is going to be my MVMP. How about you, Jade?
So I was thinking I wanted to give it to Sam too, but I loved Piggy and I love Fozzie. Can I go off book and give it to Frank Oz, please? Because I thought all of his characters were amazing.
I mean, you can,
Lewis is pulling a face.
but it's going to throw the Excel spreadsheet, Jade. So, I mean...
Okay, look. Okay,
No, it's fine. No, I think
it's fine. I will give it to Sam, but with an asterisk that it's... The
asterisk will be worse for the spreadsheet, Jade. If anything, just say Frank Oz. Like,
Frank
if you
Oz.
start... Yeah, just go with your
we'll say
gut.
Frank Oz. I genuinely felt like all of his main Muppets, Sam, Piggy, Fozzie, all just totally stole the spotlight when they were on screen. They were all just absolutely fantastic. The characterization for all of them was so spot on, and they all had these little moments, just a little tiny like flick of the eyes or a throwback of the head or Fozzie just peeking up behind the piano, like just absolutely completely spot on and exactly what I'm looking for when I watch the Muppet Show, and it was so delightful to see. So yeah, I'm sorry, I was struggling to pick between them, so I'm sorry to ruin the Excel spreadsheet, Lewis.
No, it's fine.
So yeah, Lewis, who was your MVMP?
So, I mean, obviously Sam and Piggy were doing great stuff this episode, but I think actually I'm going to have to give it to Fozzie.
Yeah.
We haven't seen him do anything in so long, and he just popped up in one perfect little scene and made it completely. And it was so in keeping with his character and just so cute and funny and sweet. And yeah, I there was really nobody else that made me sort of, gasp with delight in such the same way. And, beyond Rudy's ass. So... or them titties. So those tig old biddies, to quote Beyonce, Renaissance out now. It was, yeah. So I think it's got to be Fozzie Bear. All right, we are going to move on to our rankings for this week's episode. Jade, why don't you kick us off?
I really enjoyed this week's episode. I think I'm sure, as you can tell from our conversation, like I don't think there's that much to complain about really, so I'm going to give it 7.5 blowtorches out of 10. Yeah, I feel like they obviously took this idea of what can we do with Rudolf Nureyev and how would all of the individual Muppets respond to having a classical performer on the show, and they built a really, really solid narrative and episode, not only with the actual plot of the story, with Sam trying to make the show more dignified and bring it up so it was more cultural, but also that you had all of the sketches and songs responding to this central idea. I do think of Rudy's numbers, Swine Lake was the one that I found the most disappointing, but actually it was still enjoyable enough. I just felt like it could use some tweaks. But yeah, like there weren't that many low points, particularly in the episode. I think the UK spot could be a bit stronger, but it's the UK spot. I feel like at this point we shrug, and as long as it's not totally terrible, you're like, okay, it's passable, it's forgivable. But yeah, I really, really did enjoy this episode. I think the reason I've given it 7.5 is because it doesn't totally stand out to me as one of my all-time favourite episodes, but there's a hell of a lot going on here that I really, really did enjoy. And yes, more Fozzie, please, just in general. So yeah, 7.5 out of 10 blowtorches. Lewis, I'm going to mess it up and go to you next.
I think this was actually the episode that I've enjoyed the most so far this season. I think it's a really strong narrative. I think the writers do really well deciding what they can do with each and every sort of group of Muppets with the concept. I think all the performers are doing great. And look, Rudolf Nureyev is easy on the eye and he got his top off. So it's kind of everything I want from entertainment. So I think I'm going to give it 8.5 skimpy sauna towels out of 10. Yeah, it was just a joy from start to finish, and is so what I hope the Muppet Show is going to continue moulding into. The only weak spot for me really was just the UK spot. Everything else I really appreciated in one way or another. Yeah, I think it's my favourite episode so far this season. Yeah, so I've got to give it its highest mark so far. So I'm going 8.5. So I'm still hedging my bets a little bit, but yeah. Emma.
So for this episode, I'm going to give it 8 tuxes out of 10. I mean, to start off with, like I said, I love tuxes, and everyone is in a tux practically for this whole episode, which is, just a great point on its own. And I just thought it was a really fun episode. I love the kind of backstage business, how it went on to the front of the stage, and all the sort of songs and sketches we had I thought were really solid. Kind of like you both said, the UK spot for me was, it was sweet, but it was kind of like a bit of a moment in the episode, but I just thought overall it was really, really strong. I thought Rudy was a great guest on the show. I loved everyone's interaction with him. Miss Piggy with him in Baby It's Cold Outside was just hilarious. And just sort of Sam throughout the episode as well, and his interactions with Kermit. And I just thought it was a really solid episode. And again, a bit like you said, Lou, to be honest, out of everything we've seen so far, I would have to say it's probably been my favourite one. But again, I am sort of hedging my bets by only giving it 8, just because I know we've got some really great guest stars coming up. So yeah, so for this episode, I'm going to give it 8 tuxes out of 10.
Lovely. And now it's time for us to amble on over to Jade's Muppet Book. Have we got a name for this properly?
I think it's just Jade's Book
Jade's
Club,
Book Corner.
No, so no is the answer then. The fact that Emma and I answer differently, no. It's a no.
Jade's Muppet Book Club Corner Club. Jade's Muppet Book Club Corner Club, I think it's what we have to go with. Jade, what have you got for us this week?
Yeah, so this week I am actually going to read a little segment from Jim Henson, The Works. So we've got another book in the book club. Yay! So I've picked this section because it speaks directly about this episode, which I thought was quite interesting. So this is from Jim Henson, The Works, also by Christopher Finch. And Christopher Finch writes, as the second season progressed, the Muppet Show began to take on a new vitality. The Muppet Theatre format began to function flawlessly, and the on-set chemistry pushed performers to higher levels of achievement. And with all the other elements in place, the writers were able to turn out consistently funny scripts. About halfway through that second season, Jerry Jill recalls, I suddenly had the sense that everything was working, that we had reached a new plateau. Among other things, it was becoming easier to develop storylines holding each show together. There were often demented variations on the old Busby Berkeley type of backstage movie plot, crossbred with hilarious glosses on contemporary sitcoms. At the same time, the backstage format permitted the writers to slot musical numbers and other variety show elements seamlessly into the continuity, as well as glorious parodies of soap operas, Veterinarian's Hospital, space operas, Pigs in Space, and movie spoofs. As the show picked up momentum, it also picked up in the ratings. People began to tune in regularly to see what stunt Kermit or Fozzie or Gonzo would pull next. Show business personalities and their agents noticed. Suddenly, Bernie Brillstein found that it was no longer difficult to engage guest stars to appear in the show. A key moment in season 2 and in the entire history of the Muppets came when Rudolf Nureyev agreed to do the show. The news that the world's most famous ballet dancer, a cultural icon of monumental stature, would be appearing on the programme generated unprecedented press coverage and audience curiosity. Fortunately, the show lived up to its advanced billing, with Nureyev allowing himself to be the butt of outrageous gags, dancing at one point with a gargantuan pig dressed in tutu and toe shoes.
Lovely. Do we give away that you hadn't decided what you were putting into book club this week? So we're just gonna do some neutral expressions.
Oh, that's lovely.
Interesting. Just provocative.
Oh wow, that's really interesting.
Rudy, yes. And with that, thank you so much for listening to Muppetsational. If you enjoyed the episode, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review, as it really helps spread the word about the podcast. You can follow us on social media. We are at Muppetsational on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and Facebook. You can contact us at hiho@muppetspodcast.com, and you can find out more about us and the podcast at muppetspodcast.com. Well, thank you all for joining us for another episode. We are now going to enjoy the rest of our Saturday morning. Until next week, I've been Lewis Chandler.
I've been Jade Turner.
And I've been Emma Chandler.
We shall see you on another episode of Muppetsational. Bye!
Bye!
Our theme music is Peppy Pepe by Kevin MacLeod, and our artwork is designed by Charlotte Rudge, who you can follow at Charlie_R_Rudge on Instagram.
was a funny show.
Yes, it was. I wonder if they meant it that way.